Hello, everyone. So this is our session on building the chatbot. That's for your last assignment in this course. And here today, it's agenda. We're going to discuss briefly what a chatbot is, review some chatbot terminology, and we're gonna apply the chatbot terminology to build the Mr. BMI chatbot application. It's another example that you're gonna get after this session. We're gonna talk about some tips for the assignment, requirements, and question and answers, okay? So now, I have to say it all the time, and this is very important. Your chatbot implementation must be ready 2 to 3 days before the assignment is due. Why? Because you have to send the link to your chatbot to the testers, right? And I explain more. But there is an activity which is part of the assignment, and you need 2 days. So your chatbot must be more or less complete 2 days before the assignment is due, because you need to run the experiment, 2 days experiment. Your IBM Cloud account must remain active. Please do not enter credit card number. There is no reason to, right? Do not submit any tickets with IBM. You need to submit Salesforce tickets. Then do not deactivate IBM Cloud account. Then there is a chatbot key concept quiz in the course content. You need to earn 70 or above. You do need to, and if you have not, please make sure that you take the quiz and then watch the session again, all right? Now, you have to keep in mind this chatbot walkthrough is sequential. So you cannot jump to page 5 if you're not done with exercise on page 4. You cannot skip. You have to do that in order, because, for example, exercise 4 may ask you to create a node, and then on the next page, you are using that node for something else, right? So if you skip the exercise, you cannot continue to the next page. So you have to do that sequentially, all right? Important part is the chatbot that you develop to submit. The chatbot that you submit must be your work. It cannot be Mr. BMI. It cannot be Mr. Cold. It must be in your area of interest, and it must be your work, okay? So maybe, perhaps it could be something like pizza sale. It could be something like ice cream sale. It could be dinner reservation. It could be purchase of the flight tickets, something like that, right? You want to pay attention to the deliverables. You need to submit the JSON file. If you do not submit JSON file, your chatbot work cannot be graded. You must submit that file. Okay, so we have a question. You wanted to use IBM Cloud Functions. What do you mean it's not free? You need to, what student credit? For this assignment, you do not need to use IBM Cloud Functions. All you need to use is that Watson Assistant Service. Yeah, because for this assignment, you don't need to pay for anything. Everything is free. There is no limit. Well, maybe there is a limit on number of API calls, but nobody ever hit 1/10 of that limit, so no worries. No student credit for this one. It just, well, I like the idea of cloud functions, but unfortunately, well, we can't use those. Now, remember this, deletions cannot be undone. So if you delete your service, that's it. Unless you save the copy of your JSON file, right? If you save the copy of the JSON file, you can re-import it. And you know this quote, the only mistake you can make is not asking for help. Just remember that one, okay? Okay, this is a terminology that you must know for assignment 4. You must know what intent is. You must know what intent example, right? So intent basically is an attempt to do something. Entity, see this, you need to know all of this. So please go through this list, and you're gonna have a slide. And also, I believe there is a list somewhere in the classroom, right? Right? So you make sure that you understand what those are, because if you do not, when you need help, right, I'm going to be using this vocabulary and it will sound like I'm speaking foreign language to you. So please make sure that you know this. All right. Now, what is a chatbot? Most of you are familiar with the term bot. It's just a system that, like, specific application that's using rules to solve the specific problem, right? It's just based on any trigger, based on something that you entered, it's solve specific problem. However, the chatbot, it understands your natural language. So the idea is you type your question in natural language on a topic that the chatbot is trained, and it's gonna give you this, it's gonna provide you the answer, right, based on what you type. But a big difference between ChatGPT is that chatbots are on specific topic and they're trained on specific topics. They're not like anything that you want to ask about, right? The chatbot is trained in a limited subject area. Like, for example, Mr. Cold, right? It's not gonna know when you ask about the food calories, for example. It won't be able to answer that question because it was trained on the cold symptoms, right? So just know that piece. So high level, what are we gonna do? You're gonna define the application purpose and scenarios, and I'm gonna walk through that. I'm gonna give you different example from what you have in a classroom. So you're gonna define a purpose, you're gonna define the scenario, scenarios, you're gonna build the flow diagram, and you have access to Visio. It's free for you as a student. Your email comes with a set of applications, and Visio is one. Are you gonna use the Watson Assistant service to actually build your dialogue, right? So this tool, it provides the dialogue management capabilities. You're gonna train the application through the scenarios. Well, deploy the application. In this case, you're just going to create an assistant. Then there is a conversation log that you're going to monitor, put into train the application further. So the conversation log, it's going to be today's experiment. You're going to identify the limitations. Then you're going to suggest any enhancements that you want to make, right? Maybe including potential integration with other services, read about other services on the IBM cloud, perhaps, right? Like, for example, a long time ago, there used to be Watson Discovery Service where you could build up the repository on a certain topic. So you could connect that Watson Discovery with Watson Assistant, and you can do the search on a topic. Well, not anymore, but in the past it was possible. But look at what other services are in there. Maybe like text to speech, speech to text, something like that. All right. So what are we talking about? We have a Mr. BMI chatbot application. Basically, it's an application that it allows you to enter your height and weight, and it's gonna give you your body mass index. It also allows you to specify your blood pressure reading, and it's gonna comment whether your blood pressure normal or not based on that reading. So you don't need to sit and spend hours on the web and try to figure out how to calculate the BMI, etc. Then you don't need to contact your doctor to interpret your readings unless your blood pressure is super, super high or super low. This application is available 24/7 and it's free. Your result will remain confidential, and very important, the results are consistent. So, for example, if my blood pressure is 120/80, it's normal, right? If one of you enters the same blood pressure, it's also going to give you that it's normal. But this application cannot answer the new questions, of course. Like, for example, if it's not trained on the steps how to do CPR, it won't answer how to do CPR, right? So basically, well, maybe I should do the little preview first, but let's see. So basically, here is the setup. Well, you have office, right? You have doctor's office, and you have 3 doctors working in the office. Here is the doctor's schedule. That's Eastern time. So between 12 a.m. between 12 a.m. and 10 a.m. you have Dr. Mr. Monitor on duty. And then here it's Miss Stethoscope from 10 to 5, and from 5 to 12, it's going to be Mr. BMI. So basically, when you launch the chatbot, you're going to see like this is a chatbot, right? I'm going to refresh it. But before I refresh it, see this. When the chatbot greeted me, that was a picture, right? But I ran this chatbot earlier. See, right now I'm going to refresh. The picture is going to be different because I display the doctor who's on duty depends on the time when you run the application, right? Well, so right now it's Mr. BMI calculator. So this is a doctor on duty. I'm going to select what I want to do, and perhaps I want to estimate BMI. See, selecting an option, it's equivalent to typing estimate BMI. So now it's going to ask me about my height, and here is a limitation. I cannot specify a metric unit, so that's one limitation of my app. So I have to go with the inches, and I can say 60 inches, and now it's going to ask me for the weight. But notice that I can also type my weight in words. See this? I can type it, and it's going to pick up the number. See? It echoed because scissors it did not quite pick up correctly, but usually it does. It read 25. See, I'm gonna refresh it and start again. Okay, so basically scissors, I click on this here. I select the first option, estimate BMI. Okay, it's gonna ask me about my height. Scissors, I'm gonna type 60. It's gonna identify the number, right? And now I'm gonna say how many pounds do you weigh? And I'm gonna put this, and it's gonna calculate the BMI. See, BMI is 24.4, healthy weight, see? Now, I'll refresh this again. Next option, what else can you do? Well, here it is. What is BMI? I wanted to provide me information on BMI, and there we go. Well, limitation, this was hard-coded. This is not stored as a set of articles, right? It just hard-coded information about what BMI is. The code will be available to you. It will be posted, okay? And you will need to import it, and I'll show you, okay? The code for this will be available to you. I promise. Okay. Well, see this? Now you're gonna select it's showing you, it's a good practice to show you other options, right? Well, I can do something like my blood pressure, and it's gonna say enter systolic blood pressure. But suppose that I put something like this word, table, it doesn't recognize a number in the input, it's gonna ask me to re-enter my systolic blood pressure. So systolic is a high reading, right? So I can put something like 140, and for the diastolic, I can put something like 90. It should say that it's high. It should say that it's hypertension. See this? It says your blood pressure is elevated, adopt the healthy lifestyle. What do you want to do next? Well, what I want to do next is I want to email the information. Email the information. It's going to ask me, please enter email address, right? Basically, it's checking for the valid format. So if I type something like x at x.com, it's going to pick up correct format. Now it's going to say that information will be sent. See this? The information about BMI and blood pressure will be sent to your email shortly. Now you get in again, and here, what you can do right now, you can exit. But well, when you exit, take a look at what it does. Well, see this message? It says, thank you for using BMI application. Have a nice Thursday. What is this? That should be some kind of like a date entity or something like that. It picked up what current day of the week is. We are extracting the current day of the week from the date. And I'll show you. I just wanted you to see the big picture first, right? So if you did not answer the question as it's expected, it's going to ask it again, right? Also, you should be able to quit. For example, it asks you 5 times what your diastolic blood pressure and you don't feel like answering it again. You should be able to type stop, right, or something like that and exit. You should be able to quit. Okay? Now, well, let's look at the scenarios here. In this case, here are the scenarios. One of the scenarios is estimate BMI. User select estimate BMI or types estimate BMI. Application is going to prompt to enter the height in inches and weight in pounds. If input doesn't contain a number, the bot will prompt to re-enter the height. A number in the input can be written as a text, right? Or it can be typed as a number. Here are examples that should be acceptable. Then the application will calculate BMI and informs you, right? All right, that's what it does. It calculates BMI and informs you if you're in a healthy range. So this is one scenario. All right. Well, next scenario, my blood pressure. Well, you select my blood pressure or you type my blood pressure. That triggers a blood pressure intent, right? So then it's going to ask you to enter your systolic and diastolic readings. If the input doesn't contain a number, you're going to be asked to re-enter. So here the number can be read as a text or it can be entered as a number. Then the application is going to return if you are a low, high, or normal. Then here, I'm adding a little bit here, something else. If your systolic reading is above 180 or the diastolic reading is above 120, application is going to exit and you'll be advised to see the doctor immediately. But if your blood pressure is a systolic under 65 and diastolic under 45, it's gonna also be advised to see the doctor immediately, right? Because this is too low, right? So those are two scenarios that I showed you. That's another scenario. Explain. You want to know the information about the BMI. It's just gonna give you the picture, right? Another scenario is what's the blood pressure. See? Another scenario was email me the information. User select email me. The bot prompts you to enter email. If the response contains valid email, you're gonna get a message. Otherwise, you're gonna be asked to re-enter. Okay. Well, this is another scenario. This is a goodbye. I'll see what this does. It's gonna show you the day of the week, right? Well, this one here, it happens if you have a hypertension. If you have a hypertension, you're going to be taken to exit the program, and you're going to see this message about the hypertension crisis. And then below it, you're going to see this message, have a nice Monday. If it's not hypertension, if you chose to exit, it's just going to give you that message. If today is a weekend, it's going to show you, thank you for using BMI application, have a nice weekend. Well, so see, well, you can change the message, you can change what you displayed based on the current time and based on the current day of the week. All right? Now, well, this is how the conversation flow diagram looks like, and you're going to create yours or your topic. You're going to create new skill. Remember how we created new skill? Well, here assumption is that you have done what? The walkthrough, right? But one thing that may or may not be in there is that you have to download the file. So I'm gonna go in here. See, those are my skills. What you need to do is this. You're gonna go here and you're gonna go to download. See, this is how to submit your work. You would need to go and download this skill, right? You will click download. I'm gonna give you the skill for Mr. BMI. It's gonna be the JSON file. To use it, you have to do this. You have to go to create skill. Then you're gonna have to select this dialog skill, right? Dialog skill. You're gonna click on next. Then you're gonna do this upload skill. Then here you're gonna upload the files that you're gonna get, okay? This is how you have to do it. To look at example. Well, so this is an example. It's an implementation of Mr. BMI skill. So let's look at the slides. Don't be scared about number of slides. Okay, so basically, intent, it's something that user wants to do. Estimate BMI, or explain what BMI is, etc., right? Well, I can give you another example. For example, you want, an intent is to turn something on, right? It's an intent. You want to do something. You want to turn something on. So that's an intent, right? Entity qualifies the intent. Like, what can you turn on? Light, radio, air conditioning, TV, right? So this is an entity. Intent is an action, something that you want to do. An entity qualifies the intent. For example, here, explain. And what you want to explain? The topic, right? It's going to be the entity, right? To estimate, this is an intent. Goodbye is intent. Exit, rather, I call it. Email me the information. That's an intent. You want to send an email. So entity, it qualifies. It's an intent context. All right. There are different types of entities. Well, first of all, you've got user entities and my system entities and my entities. My entities are entities that you create. System entities are pre-built entities that you need to turn on, but only turn on the ones that you actually use. In my case, I'm using date, time, and number. All right. So my entities, there are two types of my entities. Well, see, this one is a topic. This is just like regular. I specify here, and then I specify my values, and I specify the synonyms. Another entity type is this one. It's a expression where you specify patterns. See that you want to read an email. This is a pattern. Another example is a phone number. Phone number must follow certain pattern. And for the phone number, you're going to have two patterns because you've got the local phone number and you have the international phone number. So you're going to have more than one pattern, right? So where did I took that from? This is a code reuse. I took it from documentation, right? So you have two user entities here and you're using system entities. All right. Okay. Well, here, I'm just explaining what's the difference between my entities and system entities, because in a chatbot, you must have a system entity. System entities cannot be added manually. They start with prefix SYS. So here's an example, right? So when you name your entities, they cannot start with SYS because it's the result for system. Sorry. Okay. Now, you can add user entities manually, and this is in the walkthrough, right? This is just a review. Well, you can add manually, then you can also import. Well, why you ask to import? Because if you were adding all of those manually, your instructions for the assignment would have been at least 100 pages long. So you ask to import, right? So now what do I do next? I have my intents, I have my entities. What do I need to do? I need to build my dialog. By default, dialog contains two nodes, welcome nodes and welcome node and anything else node. Every chatbot must start with a welcome node and must end with anything else node. Welcome node condition is triggered when the chatbot is launched. What's going to happen in the time when it's launched? Right? So when this is not the time when the chatbot is launched, what it's going to do, it's going to check which node is triggered. It's going to go to the, if it's going to check if you're trying to email, right, each node has an entry condition. So when you want to send an email, when you select email me, it's going to trigger that node because it triggers, see this, it's saying here, the node entry condition is when it recognizes email me node in the input, right? Then it's going to check if you entered valid email, right? See, this one, this node has entry condition the BMI intent. So whenever it's identifying the BMI in the input, it's gonna trigger that node. So you've got nodes. For the nodes themselves, those are parent node, but some nodes may contain the child node. Like for example, in here, I'm using the child node to display the menu, and also in the child node, I'm extracting the current day of the week. See, this is a format. If it's 5 is, it's gonna take the full name of the day. If it's a triple, 3 is, it's gonna take the day abbreviation. All right. So here is storing. Well, this one for the attempt, I'm doing something special for the email. If user fails to provide valid email within 3 attempts, it's just gonna quit. It's just gonna say that you did not provide valid email. Okay, so you've got like several options to quit. Well, see, each node, it has an entry condition. This is an entry condition. Then here you just collecting information. This is a slot where you collect information. Then there is a response part and where to go next, right? Like after this, right? See here, I want after this is executed, I want to jump to the main menu. I want to jump to here to this node, right? And like here, what is this? This is a folder. Folder allows grouping and collapsing multiple nodes. So this is explain, and I put it like this. So if it recognizes, sorry, sorry guys, if it recognizes the intent explain and entity BMI, right? Then it's gonna take me here, and it's gonna display the information about BMI. See, those are the response variations, so it's gonna pick any of these 3 texts, right, to show me. Then this is an image, but you cannot copy and paste picture into the chatbot. You have to use the image online. See, it has to end, the URL needs to end with PNG or GIF, something like that, right? So that's an image. Let's go back to the slides. Well, this is a vocabulary, right? Again, this is a vocabulary. We've got different response type, right? Text option, a pause, image, and there is also video. You're asked to do a video in an assignment. Well, that should be straightforward. You just find the video in YouTube and put a link to the video. For image, you put a link to the image. For video, you put a link to the video. All right. You customize welcome node. This is something called conditional responses. So in a welcome node, let's see what it does in here. If assistant recognizes, first of all, you have to go here and you have to enable conditional responses. What I'm doing here, I'm checking. See now, this one, it's a way to check the current time. So if right now is before 10 a.m., I want to do this response. If it's after 5 or 8 Eastern, right, I'm gonna do this response. Otherwise, I'm gonna do this response. Notice this is not anything else node. This is a response when neither of these conditions are true, right? So that's gonna be the response, but let's take a look at this. Now it's before 10, right? Let's look at this. Let's look at its gear. And this is what it's doing. This is a text, right? Response variation. It's going to display any of this. Then it's going to show this picture. Remember, we saw different picture based on the time. It's set up right here. See? You don't necessarily have to do something like this, but in your assignment, you need to use a system entity. Maybe you try to read a number from user input, something like that. But here, see, there's a lot going on in this node. I'm using the date, right, the time. Then I'm looking at the conditional responses. I'm doing text and I'm doing the image here. See? So a lot going on in this node. Okay. And I spelled it out for you here. All right. Well, explain node, that's a little bit different. Well, because see, that's a folder. Folder allows you to group or collapse, right? So that's just the text and the image. That's easy, isn't it? So here I just detailed some of the nodes. Well, there are different response types. This is an image, and I showed you how to add an image. You need to add an image URL on the web. There is a response type called option. So let's look at the menu. Here, this is displaying the menu, right? And this is an option. What is this? It shows you, it shows you the label. Label is what's being displayed in the menu. That's what actually appears to the user. And the value is an intent that gets recognized in the dialog when that option is selected. So basically, selecting something like my blood pressure is equivalent to typing blood pressure in a text box, right? You can enter text, you can enter natural language, for example, email me, right? That's an intent that gets triggered. Or you just select it from the menu that is displayed. So basically, there are two parts here. First part, label is the way the option is displayed to a user, and value is the intent that actually get triggered. And if you don't remember what intents you have, you need to go to intents. In the intent, see this? Do you see this intents? Basically, in different intent is triggered based on the option selected from option response. So why would you use options? That way it minimizes the likelihood of invalid input. I just see what options I have, and I select from an option. I did not need to second guess, right? Like another example would be you doing the ice cream order and you want to display the available toppings, right? Something like that. You want to show the user what toppings they have, or you want to show the user what they can do. You present the menu. Like I want to place an order, I want to cancel an order, etc. Right? It's very convenient. It's more user friendly when you put a menu like this, right? So that's a dialog. We go back to the dialog, and I showed you the option response type. Okay. This one is how to read the number from the input. And well, what this is here, right? Well, see this, I'm reading the blood pressure, and this is something called slot. Slot allows you to collect the input from the user, and when the slot is required, you have to enter the valid number to pass it. Or you can use something called a handler to redirect the conversation. So it's looking for the number in the input, right, and then another number. But this is what you need to do to test it. See this? There is a try it here. So now I'm looking at the context and I see what variables I have here. So right now I know that it's Thursday, right? It was populated. So this is what I have right now. I don't have the blood pressure. I don't have the systolic diastolic readings now. So what am I going to do now? I'm going to select an option and I'm going to do my blood pressure. See what happens. Right now, I'm going to enter the systolic blood pressure here. So I'm going to put 150. I enter that and hit enter. Now take a look at what happened. I go here and I see this added. Systolic got added here and the value is 150. This is how you troubleshoot. You need to make sure that it's added here, right? So if your calculation is wrong, first thing to make sure is that you're reading the numbers correctly. Now here, right, I entered this. Now it's asking me to enter diastolic number. And I'm gonna put something like 110. Now what I'll do, I'm gonna hit enter. Now do you see this? It's giving me this. But also if I look here, I'm gonna see, I should see the diastolic. It's here, it's stored here. So we are storing the user information, right? There are multiple ways to do that. But here I'm just using the slot, see? Another thing is that, so I'm gonna clear it and I'm gonna run it again. And I'm gonna do something like my blood pressure, I'm gonna do that again. Well, here, suppose that I don't feel like comfortable that I want to answer it. I can type exit and that will take me to the exit part, see? How did it happen? It's because there is a handler, and if I go to manage handler, if it recognizes the goodbye intent in input, so it says sounds like you want to quit, then in the gear, I specify what I want to do, and I want to, it just shows to skip to response, right? Then in the response, cancel, I don't want to save that. When I go back to my response, see here, it just checking for the values, right? And different response based on the values. But what I did was, you saw it, I set the systolic to the dummy value -1, and I set the diastolic to dummy value -1. And if it's a dummy values, then it means that I exited. And here I'm specifying where I want to jump to, and I want to jump to goodbye, evaluate response. See, you specify where you want to go. That's what you do. Here, that's just showing that you have the hypertension, and that will also take you to goodbye, right? Otherwise, if everything is okay, it's gonna take you back to the menu, see? It's gonna ask you what else you want to do. You see, this is a conditional response, but you have to use the try it to test it, to make sure that the correct values are being read from the input, right? So I showed you that. Oh, email, it's a little bit not easy configuration. So I showed you that you need to have the entity that takes the pattern, right? That's a pattern. Then you have a node in here. You have an intent, email me, right? And then when you go to the dialog, you have, if email me is recognized in the input, what it will do is, well, this is a slot, and what I'm missing here, I forgot to put a handler. You must have a handler. But what it is doing is that it's gonna ask for email, and it's trying to read the email. So what it does here is checking for the email. What is this? That's an entity, but what's happening is that this is different entities. That's a pattern entity. So I'm just checking, and then I'm storing the value in a variable called email. But what else I did? Do you remember the attempt? I did something different in here. When you enter invalid email, it's gonna increment the attempt by 1. So when you do it in the first time, attempt is 0. Next time attempt is 1. And then the third attempt is gonna be 2, right? Then that's it. It's gonna exit. It's gonna say if you exceeded the number of attempts, it's gonna show you this message, and it's gonna just go to the menu, right? Well, it says skip to response. Okay, it says skip to response. But this is a response. What it does is it sets email to the dummy value X, right? If you did not provide the valid email, it set it to X. You saw it above. Then in here, right, it's just gonna show it's just gonna show you what an email. See? Well, in here it's just gonna show you this. Thank you. The information about this will be emailed shortly. But what is this? You put this $sign to read what's stored in the email, right? And if you click on this, well, do you see this? Well, this is where you set in the context. This is how you read the email from the input, see? And trust me, this took me a while to get to work, so try not to do something as complex. First of all, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have something, the chatbot with scenarios where you're reading something from the input, you're processing that input and displaying the information, right? Then you want to collect an email, or you want to collect the phone number, or it could be a PIN code, right? Something like a phone numbers, last four digits, something, the PIN code. So that's gonna be what the patterned entity, right? You have to do something like that. You need to make sure that at any time you should be able to exit the conversation. You have a welcome node. Each response has multiple variations. In the slots where you're asking for input, there should be a handler. I should be able to exit conversation at any time. I should be able to ask for clarification, right? So I know this sounds like a complex, but this bot was not built overnight. Initially, it started as an answer to the student question on how to read two numbers from the keyboard, right? How to process numbers. It was just as simple like that. And with time, I was adding to it, all right? Okay, so this is how to read the date, and this is just extracting the today's day of the week. If you have this 5 letters E, it's gonna take the full spelling of the day. If it's 3 letters E, it's gonna take the abbreviation, all right? Well, this is just, well, goodbye note. It has conditional response. It's gonna check if the date is Saturday or Sunday, then it's a weekend, right? It's a different message. Otherwise, it's just gonna include the value of the day in a response, right? Same something like have a nice Monday, something like that. Well, folder just a way of grouping notes. We talked about that. This is just the test. It shows you how data is being identified in the input. So when I'm running this, right, in the try it just shows me, well, here, look, well, I selected the estimate BMI. It identified the BMI intent in my input, right? Then here, it's asking me for the height, and it identified the number. It's asking me for the weight, and it's giving me the calculation, right? That's it. So this is just the test. You have to test your chatbots like this. What is being read, what is being returned, right? Then you have to build virtual assistant. I also call it as deploying a chatbot. So let's start from scratch here. I have an assistant, but I can create another one. So this is what you will do. You're gonna do here, go here, create assistant. Then you're gonna enter name. Like I want to put something like Mr. BMI. I'm gonna enter name. Description is optional. I'm gonna go create an assistant. Then what I need to do? Well, this is a dialogue, see? You just add the dialogue skill. Add the dialogue, and this is my dialogue skill, and that's it. Right? This is what you do. But let me go ahead and delete this because I already have an assistant. I don't want to get myself confused, right? I already have an assistant. So this is my Mr. BMI healthcare. Look at this. Well, this is what you will do. Well, see, you created an assistant. Important part. You're going to click on the preview. This is a link that you need to send to your friends. You do this copy, right? Then you go to the new tab. And what your friends will do is they're going to do this. They're going to put that link in the browser, and they're going to run several conversations here. Your friends need to run several conversations, and they're going to try to enter something that is not recognized and see what happens. Like, for example, here I want to put CPR steps. It's going to tell me that I don't understand. Can you try rephrasing? Because my chatbot is not trained on the CPR, right? So I have to do something like, what is BMI, right? See, now it's asking me to enter height in inches, etc. Right? And I should be able to exit at any time. See, I exit. Sounds like you want to quit. Sorry, you did not provide sufficient information. So that's it, right? But your users, whoever you choose, needs to run several conversations. After that, what you will do is this. You're going to go to your skill, the skill here. Notice that there is a menu, overview, analytics overview. That stores your conversation data. You will have to have the conversation for, first you're going to have 1 day. What you see this is a total number of conversations, average number of messages, right? And there is some weak understanding. So that means that the chatbot did not quite interpret something right. Then it's going to tell you which entities you're hitting the most. So this is important because you're going to know which part of the chatbot is being used the most and where do you need to concentrate on enhancing your chatbot, right? So is it used more for BMI or is it used more for the blood pressure? See, you have to look at this. Well, see here, this is a number of times it was used, and I can click on the intent, and it's going to take me to the conversations where that intent was used. So see, this is the user conversations, and this is the overview. Sometimes, see, there is something called the weak understanding. Something was misunderstood. You can go to the view logs. You go to the view logs, and in here, I can open the conversation. See, and it's going to show me something like CPR steps was not recognized, right? So you just know that. Another thing you could do is that you could check the conversations that your friends ran, right? Like, for example, see this here. What's happening is that I'm typing this one. See this? It's showing that it's a BMI calculator, and it's showing a picture. How may I help you? Then you enter something like BMI is an intent, right? Then it's here. It just this is just it displays a menu, and this is your input, right? You chose explain BMI. See, this is a menu that was displayed to you. You chose explain BMI. This shows the classification. When I click here, it shows that it currently identified the intent explain and entity BMI. Well, suppose that it did not identify the intent correctly, right? Suppose that you meant to explain, but it identified something else. This is what you need to do. Is you're gonna look through, you're gonna analyze the conversation, and you will find something that was not identified correctly. Then you can go to click on a pencil mark, and you can specify what you want to do. So you want to specify that you want to do explain, or you want to do it as BMI, or you want to read it as a blood pressure. You can specify how your input should be recognized. That will train the chatbot. So next day, if your tester runs the chatbot again, and if they put the same input, it's going to be handled, right? So you have to look at these classifications and see how it was classified. If you did not need to change anything, then just explain that you did not need to adjust anything, right? So you have day one. After day two, you need to check the conversation again. You pretend that you were going to run for another day, and you need to explain what else you would have changed. See, well, sometimes look like let me give an example. Sometimes the chatbot asks to enter the language, and when I test the student's chatbot, you can use me as a tester. I can enter something that is not recognized, some synonym perhaps, right? Or if you ask to enter a language, what language do you speak? I will try to enter something that the chatbot does not handle. Then when you go to the log, you will be able to classify that new language as language value, right? You adjust the classification. Next time when I run the chatbot, it's going to recognize the input. This is part of the training. Then you have to look at which entities, which part of the chatbot was used the most, right? And you look at it. Maybe pick one conversation as an example that you discuss in a paper. You don't have to discuss all conversations, but pick something that is meaningful. See, I told you that you needed 2 days to run the experiment because on day one, after your testers are done with conversation, you have to go back to here in the analysis, and you need to analyze the conversation you had on that day. You need to look at the metrics. You have to check the actual conversation if things were classified correctly. You need to adjust the classification if it's wrong. You have to write that piece of the paper, right? Then on the next day, you ask your users to retest. See, so that takes time too. Then you need to go back and check classifications, etc. Those things take time. So you have to leave 2 days for experiment. And you may want to write your paper as you go, because if you wait until the end, you're not going to remember what you did to implement your chat. All right? Also, when you make a change, you need to retest everything else to make sure that what you had is not broken. So you may want to, just in case, you may want to download the JSON files as a backup, so that if you mess it up, you can just upload the JSON files that you backed up and start from that point, okay? So in here, I'm just explaining to you what you need to do, and that's an experiment part. You're gonna add the dialogue skill. Well, right now there is no search skill, but before we were able to add the search skill and to create the document repository. That was very interesting piece that unfortunately right now we don't have. All right. That's a preview link that you need to send to your friends or whoever is testing. It could be a family member, it could be a friend, or you could ask me also. Anyone can be your tester. That's just an explanation of an experiment. The more testers you can get, the better it is, because the same concept can be worded differently by different people. Like I still remember we're on a flight. I asked where the restroom is, and they did not know where the restroom, because in some countries they just call it washroom, or they call it toilet, or they call it bathroom. But I was surprised. I did not know what a restroom is. So if I was going to use their chatbot, and if I enter the word restroom, that's something that they would need to add to the chatbot vocabulary, right? To be able to understand that word in the future. And then another example would be the AC, right? Like air conditioning, but in some countries they just say air con. So see, it's different way to call the same concept. See, so the more people you get to test, the better it is. It trains the chatbot more. You get more synonyms for the same concept. Yeah, but that was really surprising. People had no idea what I was talking about. when I said the word restroom. All right. So, well, this is just the log. You have to look at that. You need to take a screenshot that proves that you, in fact, did the experiment for 2 days. Right. So the screenshot might show the conversations and etc. This is just a sample. Right. And this is a sample of the conversation where you may edit the classifications. And this is just the some of the links on the documentations, expressions, the gathering information with slot, etc. This is called code reuse. You may reuse expressions, but you cannot submit Mr. Code, because if you do that, well, then your instructor will need to submit the Salesforce ticket to add me to the gradebook, and I will be graded, right? Because if I created that application, that I get points for it, right? So you want to be, it has to be your work. Again, some examples are include like pizza order, ice cream order, hotel booking, airline flight reservation, something like a help desk where you're looking for assistance with something. It could be UMGC advising board, where you enter if you're graduate or undergraduate, what program are you interested in, and it provides you information, something like that. For the ice cream order, for example, you could ask about if you want a cone or if you want a cup. You want to ask for the size that you want. You want to ask about. You can ask about the flavors. You can ask about the toppings, and see, I can keep going forever, right? So basically, it's one thing you can do: take an order, something like a help with something. I'm just giving examples. It could be something like an advisor system, academic advisor. What else? Flight or doctor appointment scheduling. You need to specify on what day you want to come, and maybe specify location or something like that. Then, when you enter the information, it's stored, and at the end, for example, you may want to say something like, you may want to give an option to email your registration confirmation, right? So, for example, you booked your doctor appointment, then email me could send the booking information to your email. Well, it's not going to actually send, but it's going to ask you for an email, right? And then you're going to echo that this and that information was sent to your email. Oh, that's another way, right? This is how you can incorporate. You can ask user when you're booking the appointment, you ask user for their contact number, their email, their phone, right? So I'm just giving you some ideas. I'm not going to do an application for you because, again, what's going to happen? The instructor will go to Salesforce, submit the ticket to add me to the students list, and I will be graded, not you. So we don't want this to happen, right? You're taking a class. I already have master's. So I'm not going for my second master's degree. It's yours. And I'm going to be available to help you. You need to submit the Salesforce ticket and we'll work together. All right. So please let me know your questions now. Guys, please post your questions. Or since it's a small group, you can unmute yourself too and ask a question. Because I'm sure that people who watch this recording, they're going to have the same question. Anyone, anywhere. Or while you're thinking about the questions, Professor Azan, anything you want to add? Like anything to what I've said, anything that could be important? No? Well, I'm gonna give you a couple minutes, guys. Please ask me questions now. It's a good opportunity. You don't want to miss. Yeah, so let me see the chat. Okay. So Chatbot is basically an expert system. Well, is there's an upper limit on number of rules? Sure. Well, the number of rules, well, I would say you're not gonna hit that limit. Trust me, you're not gonna hit that limit. You have a little bit more than 1 week, So, but you want to keep it simple because you want to make sure that you finish the assignment. Remember, this is the last assignment, so when semester ends, that's it. There is no way to extend the semester, so you have to submit this on time, right? So you want to keep it simple. Go beyond examples while keeping it simple. Don't make something big. I hope I answered, right? There's no limit that I'm aware of, but you're limited. You have a time limit. You have to create something that makes sense, but don't go too much because you won't be able to finish it. You still want to go beyond examples. You don't want to copy things verbatim, right? You want to do something of your own in there. Did I answer your question? Yeah. And Alan, please ask your question. You
Sure.
can.
So,
Mhm.
sure. So, okay. I saw while you were going through your slides, you showed an example of how to get and store a number. Cool. That's useful. I think it was on like slide 20 or so, where you were using the system entity, and you were grabbing the sys number and you were storing that as a variable. Let's say I've gotten a couple of variables and I have to do some math on that for one of the use cases in my walkthrough. How can I store that variable?
So let's look at the math. Excellent question. So let's look here. Oh, it's in the skill. I should have showed you the node. Do you see that this is a dialog? And it's in it's not in the blood pressure, but it's in the yeah, BMI, yes. So see here what it's doing. Well, it's checking for that number, but over here it's doing a calculation. See that? It's doing.
What if I need to store the result of that calculation to use down the road?
Then you would need to add a variable. So after you did that, there is a way to do that. Hold on. This is the response. The view context somewhere. I never remember that. Oh, see this open context editor? See that? And you would put it here. Variable name, and you set it to the calculation.
So like if I wanted to save that top calculation there, the weight times 70.3, and I wanted to save it as BMI, I could put that math in as the variable and say the value, $BMI.
Yes, you can do that. Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, like you did. Well, remember, like you did the name, right? You reading the name. You can also do that for this. You can store, and I should have done it that way, but well, at that point in time, yes, it was just something. Let's calculate. Let's look at how to read the number. Let's look how to output the number. So that's what it was. Yes,
so
but
we just put the math in the check for basically, if system recognizes basically.
it's in here in the assistant response. Well,
right.
no,
Okay.
hold on. Yeah. Yeah, you have to do it after you collect the information. It has to be somewhere where you calculate the information. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
I'll have
I
to look
believe
it
so.
up. Yes, because it has to be somewhere in there. Like see, like here you have this email, right? Where do I read the email? See that reading the email here. Then in is it here? Yes. See this? It's here. See for the email, it's here. In the response, it's reading the email from the input. And I have this variable called email, and it's reading what's being read. Yes. But then when you test it, discard changes. When you test it, you have to make sure that it's doing it right here, right? You're going to look at the manage context, and you want to make sure that the calculation is correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Excellent question. Let's see, guys. I wanted to ask questions because questions are good. Okay. And the code will be available. You will need to import the skill. Right? You can do up to 5 skills, right? Well, Mr. Cold is 1. This is 2. And the one that you're creating is 3. So you're good, right? All right. But if you need to well, you can only have 5 skills, right? That's a limit of the application. But then if you need to create another skill, then you will need to delete the ones that you don't need, basically. But 5 skills are enough. Right. And I can be one of your testers. Okay? You can use me. Anyone. This part is anyone's. Nobody, anyone cannot write your paper, but anyone can be your tester. So that's a little piece of assignment where you can involve your friends, your family, etc. All right.
How do we, if we want to have you as a tester, would fill out a ticket or send an email, or how do you want us to engage with you for that?
Yeah, let's put ticket to track it. Huh? Sound fair? And you're gonna give me that link.
Sure.
That link, yeah. Because when I tested, I tried to find some input that your chatbot does not recognize. Trust me, I tried to break it. But then it's good for you because then you're gonna go to the analysis and you're gonna see it that Elena entered something, right? And you're gonna have something to write in your paper, right? Jesus, that's an assistant. Yep. Preview. And this is a link that you need to give me, and I'm gonna test it. I'll do that. Right? I'll test it in and out. Yes, trust me. Right. But
Is
what
there a way we can use webhooks for free or to do some processing on some of the information?
what was it?
Is there a way we can use the webhooks for free to do some processing information on the back end?
Well, it's optional, but because of the time limit. But what you could do is you can write about it. You can write.
Okay, because I started on a project and I thought I was going to be able to use the Gen code or cloud functions to do some processing on the information, but it's a pay-as-you-go service, so
Yes.
I would have to upgrade my account, and I know you guys said don't do
Yes.
that.
So
So can I just say with this
you write
output,
about it.
pretend there's a cloud function in the back that does ABC?
Yeah, you will need to do is you need to do it. It's a theoretical. So in your paper, this is an excellent, yes, excellent point. You're gonna have an excellent paper if you write about this. That you would have
Oh,
used the webhook. Yes, write about it. That's an enhancement section, right?
yes.
Yes. So write about the webhook. Yes. Yeah. But before we used the Watson Discovery Service when it was supported. So you could connect this with Watson. Yeah. Huh?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I heard someone else said something. No?
No, I'm just trying to mute, and the mute button disappeared. Sorry.
Well, yeah, that happens too. Yeah, so let's see more questions. Please ask me. Now it's an opportunity for you to ask. Yeah, but I like the idea of webhooks. So please go ahead and write about it. That's going to be excellent addition to your paper. So here you're going beyond examples in the classroom when you write about it. It's a theoretical part. The instructor will love to read about it, I'm sure. Anything else, guys? Anything else I can do to help you? No? So that was our last session, right? So let's see. Okay, thank you guys very much. If no more questions, I'm just gonna, let me see chat again. Okay, so I'm just gonna end the recording and we're gonna call it a night. And you're gonna get the recording and you're gonna get the slides and you're gonna get the code, okay? So I'm gonna do stop the recording.